Here are 5 tips that are going to help you hit a better topspin forehand. Now, to help me demonstrate these, I've got the Topspin Pro here. To get your own, you can use my link. It's in the description. I'm also going to pin it in the first comment. Tip number 1, your ready position. Get your elbows out away from you rather than jammed in to your rib cage. Get your elbows out. Think of allow everyone to be able to smell your armpits. When your elbows are out, it'll improve your backhand, but it'll improve your forehand because when you turn, the elbow is going to be up. That helps keep the swing a little smaller, helps you close the racket face to be able to swing up the back of the ball for topspin. So no more waiting positions or starting positions. Be ready. Move your feet, split step, but get your elbows out away from you. Tip number 2, unit turn with both hands on the racket. When you take the racket back, don't think of it as pulling the arm back or yanking the racket back. Don't separate this non-hitting hand. Take the racket back with both hands. If you're someone who has a two-handed backhand and your ready position is both hands on the grip, when you begin rotating to hit a forehand, slide your non-hitting hand up to the throat, and it looks like this. I like to tell my players to have their hand, elbow, and shoulder all the same height. From here, you can drop and you can get gravity-assisted racket speed. You can get below the ball and spin up the back for topspin. So when you, with your elbows out, begin the unit turn where you just rotate the body and the racket goes for a ride, slide the non-hitting hand up, turn with both hands, feel like you're showing the back of your front shoulder to your opponent, and have your hand, elbow, and shoulder all the same height before you begin the drop and the swing. Tip number 3, this is one of my favorites. Of all the things I teach in all of my videos, I would say this is a top 5 tip that I ever give to people when it comes to the amount of improvement the student sees. Tip number 3 is to make sure that when you drop your racket, that your racket face is closed. Think of this as a mirror. Are you reflecting the sky? Are you reflecting the ground? Are you reflecting straight across? You definitely don't want your racket facing up or straight across. You want to be reflecting the ground. Think about 45-degree angle. The reason is when your racket face is closed prior to hitting the ball and below contact, when you swing up and away, as you hit, your racket will be either square against the back of the ball, like this, which is straight up and down, where I could take a coin and balance it on the edge, or your racket face will be a few degrees closed, which works just fine if you're swinging up and fast enough and you're really compressing the ball and dragging that ball up over the net. Players struggle with consistency and topspin when the racket is straight up and down in the back, because then they either have to swing flat into the back of the ball, or if they do drop below the ball and they swing up, then the racket is naturally open. This is why beginners hit the ball over the fence all the time, because their brain says, hey, let's prepare the racket straight up and down. And then when they get to the ball, the racket's open. Your arm is a pendulum. Your arm's a radius. So as the racket swings, it goes from closed to square against the back of the ball. If it's square here, it'll be open when you hit. Either the ball goes up or you're forced to roll the racket as you hit the ball, which is going to lead to inconsistency. So make sure that when you drop your racket, that you are tilting your palm down toward the ground to get the strings to close. That'll lead to your racket being square against the back of the ball or a few degrees closed as you swing low to high to put topspin on. One thing, because I always get people in the comment section, so I might be hurting the algorithm right now because the more people who comment, the more my video is seen. But I will say a lot of people go, Ryan, closing the racket face is just natural. It just naturally happens. No, it doesn't. It doesn't naturally happen. Most recreational players who struggle with their forehand, their racket's straight up and down. So if they knew to just tilt the strings down with their palm, tilting down toward the ground, then they can just swing up the back of the ball and they get a ton of topspin. Tip number 4, let's talk about the contact. When you hit the ball, if you have video footage of your forehand, I want you to review it, and I want you to stop the video at contact, and I want you to look at your non-hitting hand. Is your non-hitting hand high or is it low? What you'll notice is that the height of the non-hitting hand correlates beautifully with the level of the player. So if you're looking at a very high level player, you'll typically see their non-hitting hand high. Just take a look at Djokovic, right? If you look at beginners, they have their non-hitting hand down. The reason this matters is it has everything to do with uncoiling. Remember, tip number 2 is take the racket back with both hands by rotating the body for that unit turn and unit coil with the hand, elbow, and shoulder all the same height. Well, if you coil, now you have the responsibility of uncoiling. And you know what helps you to uncoil? Your non-hitting hand clearing out of the way. Check this out. When the racket drops, remember it's going to drop and close, our non-hitting hand should be doing something. We don't want just the arm going down by itself. What we want is to clear the non-hitting hand out of the way. By doing that, it allows the upper body and the hips to rotate. So as the racket goes down, the non-hitting hand goes forward. So it looks like this. The non-hitting hand goes forward, the racket goes down. That opens up my ability to turn my hips as I'm hitting the ball. I've watched so many beginners, recreational players who are at a lower level, and they're the lifeblood of tennis. We want to cultivate them and get as many of them playing tennis as possible. So we want them moving up the ladder and improving and having more fun. If you're the type of person who has been told that you're not rotating your hips into the shot, it might just be that as you're hitting the ball, your non-hitting hand is dropping. See where my non-hitting hand is now? Look where it is now. It's down by my pants or my shorts. If that's happening, that will impede hip turn. You'll end up almost like in a straitjacket or giving yourself a hug. What you want to do is, as the racket drops, move the non-hitting hand across so that at contact, it looks like you're waving to the opponent. If you have video footage of yourself from the back, I want you to look at it and see if you can see your non-hitting hand over your non-hitting shoulder when you strike the ball. So make sure that you are clearing that non-hitting hand out of the way. It'll make sure that you are turning the hips, allowing you to swing up and through and not wrapping the racket around your body. And last, I want you to take a page out of Serena Williams' book and Venus Williams' book, and you see Dominic Thiem do this as well. I want you to catch the racket really high in the non-hitting hand. I want you to catch the racket up higher than eye level, so high that you could look through your arms if you wanted to, but you're going to choose to look over the correct shoulder. The reason is twofold. One, it forces you to swing up. In order to catch high, you've got to move the racket high. Well, topspin is a low to high swing. We want to get the racket going from below our hand to above our hand, from down below the ball to up above the ball. Tennis is a lifting sport. The more you swing up, the more that ball spins down. That's why topspin is so important. But what catching the racket up here also does is it encourages you to wave when you're striking the ball. What you'll find out is that players who catch the racket, recreational players who catch the racket up here, have a much easier time rotating the hips. Why? Because waving at contact encourages turning the hips, and then catching the racket becomes so easy. So let me do a couple practice forehands here. Move this back a little bit. Got my elbows out, and I'm going to hit some forehands using the technique that I just taught you. See if you have a Topspin Pro. Get it for the holidays, get it for a tennis lover in your life, get it for yourself. It's actually like pouring down rain as I make this video, but I can practice my topspin forehands and backhands. Elbows out, always at a split step when you shadow swing, hand, elbow, shoulder the same height. As my racket drops, it closes, waving to the opponent as I strike the ball, and a high finish.
Here's what I found.
My watch is talking to me. That happens a lot. Last one. Now, the best way to practice these techniques is at home with a Topspin Pro. You can get a Topspin Pro using my link in the description. I'm also going to pin it in the first comment. I absolutely love the Topspin Pro, and I know you will too. And if you're looking for people in your local area to play matches against or practice with, maybe you want to find a local league at your level, or you want to find a coach who's close to you who can help you with your game, then use my link for PlayYourCourt. And it's playyourcourt.com/2-minute tennis. When you use my link to sign up, you get 50% off. Film yourself shadow swinging on a Topspin Pro. Look at yourself playing matches, any video footage that you have, and review it. And check these 5 things from the ready position to the turn, to the drop, to the contact, to the finish. You incorporate the tips you learned in this video, and there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.